What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my first impressions for Horizon Zero Dawn, a game I've been meaning to get around to forever, several years in fact, but with its remaster that released back in October reminding me that the complete edition had been sitting in my library for quite some time, I should probably take 2025 to try to rectify that, which is obviously what we're doing here, fast forward it a few months. Speaking of the remaster, that's probably as good a place as any to mention that I'm actually playing this via the complete edition over on Steam. So the remaster, best I can tell, while definitely enhancing the quality of the visuals, is primarily focused on just that, the visual side of things. And frankly, I don't care enough about graphics to pay an extra $10 just for the fancy privilege of also having a required PSN account on a single-player title. So those two reasons alone are enough to keep me from using the remaster, but if that's not enough for you, just as recently as this past week, you can still see reviews coming in about things like audio bugs, problems with conversations, etc. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can make that choice for yourself, obviously, but personally, I'm inclined to stick with the complete edition. With that out of the way, though, I have not, in fact, played Horizon Zero Dawn before this instance, and on one hand, that does mean some of this stuff is, in fact, brand new to me, and seeing exactly how it feels and plays out is a pretty good time, but I also play video games for a living and hear about things all the time, of course, which means that I know the bulk of the plot already. I don't know, like, every little detail. I haven't kept up with it that much by far, but I do know who our main character Aloy actually is, along with some other key information that you would normally learn through, of course, just playing through the game. For me, though, spoilers, things like that, have never been something that would impede a good story, and on that front, I'm actually already pretty invested in what's going on here, at least in terms of the specific details, because our character, Aloy, is in fact an unwanted child of the Nora tribe, a tribe living in the shadow of some sort of post-apocalypse that led to, of course, these cyber dinosaurs running around that you have to admit are visually very striking. As an outcast, literally from birth, we were given to Rost to be raised pretty much in isolation because Rost himself had also been outcast, though seemingly by choice, and it doesn't take long to figure out two things. For starters, Aloy is somehow connected to these old world ruins you can find running around, which is where she finds this focus, or an equivalent to like AR glasses these days, I suppose, that provides her with all sorts of information, but also that she desperately wants to be accepted, of course, by none other than the people who have shunned her, which then leads her to train rigorously for the Proving, where she could potentially join back up with the tribe, only for things to immediately go wrong and then kick us out into the open world naturally to explore. So, if anything, while again I do know a fair bit of the plot already, I am enjoying the minutiae of the interactions and things like that, so that's been pleasant to experience more than anything else. But I would say probably the biggest takeaway from playing this for a few hours myself was just really how good it feels to actually play and fight the machines, even these smaller ones, because at least here in the early parts of the game, though I do imagine this will change, they do genuinely feel a bit threatening, which makes stealth and setting up for the fights usually your best option. Now, I am fully aware that later on you can go pretty heavy into it, but the melee seems to leave a lot to be desired on the opposite end of things, so generally you probably just want to stick to the stealth and the setup and using a bow and everything, not just because it tends to be a very effective way to deal with these things in the beginning, but also because the alternative, the melee stuff, just doesn't feel as good by comparison, so there's certainly that. Now, I am a little bit concerned, though, just looking at the progression systems for this game, how much that evolves over the course of the game, and, you know, the people who've played this may very well know already, obviously, but for me, going into it, looking at the skill trees, which adds, of course, various actual skills for you to use, which helps you do things like silent takedowns, that kind of stuff. Typical third-person action game, essentially, but then combined with the outfits and the weapons you can pick up, which can then be upgraded to do stuff like more standard damage, etc. I do have to wonder if outside of just making things easier and introducing the occasional new type of machine, does the combat like fundamentally fundamentally change over the course of the game, or is what I've seen in the first few hours here pretty much all there is with little variation? And that's a question I'd be interested in learning for myself, and will obviously as I play through the rest of this. I'm also a little concerned about some of the more tedious stuff. Just in the opening area, as an example, you'll probably figure out that fast travel, at least here in the beginning, requires a resource to be used, which means you want to be at least a little judicious with it at first, though I do believe there's a way to just get permanent access to it later on, and then I have to imagine the resources will also expand, because the other thing I wanted to mention is that in order to expand your capacity for storage in terms of everything you can take with you, you have to hunt down various animals and then use their parts in order to upgrade your bags and carrying capacity, as it were. And that's not a bad system per se, it's just very tedious. And while it's fun enough at the moment, over the course of an entire playthrough I do have to wonder if that would get annoying, and again, we'll find out the answer for myself there, but it is what I'm thinking about here. Now, to kind of switch gears, though, I was talking about the remaster a little bit ago, and I do think it bears a mention that despite that game enhancing the visuals, this is also already a game that still looks really good. It's been a really good time just wandering around looking at stuff, even if the faces themselves do look a little bit awkward. But this is hardly the first video game to run into that problem. In particular, though, I really love seeing the way that they sort of like articulated all of these machines, and watching them move in a way that actually does feel sort of animalistic while very clearly being made of metal and the like, and just kind of making that all look appropriate. Seems like it probably took a not insignificant amount of time, and I really do appreciate it because it looks awesome. And I can't wait to run into some of the bigger ones later that I know are coming up. But as far as the first impressions go, I think that's probably enough. And to sort of sum it up, the story already pretty engaging. I'm enjoying the details, but I do already know a fair bit of the plot. And the rest of it, while fun here in the beginning, I'm a little concerned whether or not it can hold its course over the course of the entire game. I'm hoping so, though, because it's been a pretty fun experience thus far. And even within just the first few hours, it's really not a surprise then that this game did as well as it wound up doing. Although it is my understanding the sequel, Forbidden West, had a bit of a rougher go. Now, in terms of a timeline here, I'm planning on playing this one just here and there as I do other stuff throughout the month, which is why this video is going up kind of weird. For instance, that right now I'm reviewing Doom: The Dark Ages, which is all I can say about it at the moment, but essentially I do have some other stuff going on. That said, once I'm able to turn my full attention to this game, or even just by playing it here and there throughout the month, it probably won't take terribly long. Most estimates seem to put 100% around 60 to 100 hours, which is almost certainly down to how long you wind up deciding to spend in New Game Plus, as there is a sort of mandatory second run there for an achievement. I'm not super concerned about all that, though. Mainly I plan on taking a pretty relaxed approach to this one, not really in a hurry, especially since none of it seems to be particularly difficult. That'll pretty well do it for today, though. I'm pretty excited to jump into this one and have a good time with it. But in the meantime, if you're looking forward to the actual review, which is, of course, on the way, then certainly like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Let me know how you feel about this one down in the comment section below, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.